Hello, Zoo Med fans. We're here at AnimalCon 2023, rolling on through day 3. I'm here with Garrett Hartle from Reach Out Reptiles.
Absolutely. How's it going?
Good. Do you want to tell our fans a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So at Reach Out Reptiles, we specialize in dwarf and super dwarf reticulated pythons. I think they're one of the coolest species on the planet, but I think everybody here thinks the same of their own stuff. So that's what's great about this crowd, you know? Like, everybody's so enthusiastic about what they're working with that it just spills over. We have to share. So we have a YouTube channel for it and everything, too, for Reach Out Reptiles.
Wonderful. Is that your main platform? Do you work on any other platforms as well?
Yeah, well, we're probably larger on Instagram, with people just checking out all the eye candy of the different snakes and stuff like that. And we have a vlog channel called Wild World TV as well.
What came first, the reptiles or the social media?
I mean, I've had reptiles forever. I had a lot of crazy adventures when I was younger, and in those days there was no social media, but there were cameras, so I just stick a camera in a tree or something like that, and mess with all these crazy things. And so it morphed over pretty naturally for me.
So then where did it start then? What was your first reptiles? I mean, you have a specialty now. Where did it begin?
I think it was genetic. I mean, in my family, we're a lot of storytellers. We love having stories. We love having adventures. We don't have a whole lot of self-preservation. And I mean, for me, if you go all the way back, I remember my mom always telling me a story. I grew up in the Pittsburgh area, and I'd caught like a water snake. And when I was about 2 years old, and as a 2-year-old does, I was probably squeezing the dickens out of it, and it was biting me, and I'm saying, "Look, Mom, ow, isn't it pretty? Ow, can I keep it? Ow!" You know, always loved dinosaurs. Just the fascinating array of natural adaptations that reptiles and dinosaurs always had. So just been getting as close to that as I can my whole life.
So when did you get into retics? When did that start?
Well, so actually I wasn't allowed to keep snakes because my mom was afraid of them. And it took me until I was 15 to convince her to let me have a snake. And I think I gave up like birthday and Christmas presents for the next 2 years. And I got a carpet python. Okay. And then it was over. Like, once you open the door, like, the floodgates were open. So the very next snake I got was actually a Jampea locality reticulated python, which I kept for a lot of years and then got into breeding them later. I also grew up not far from Prehistoric Pets. And so visiting there, I mean, Jay has got some reticulated pythons. Yeah. And so that was always super impressive. And you just fall in love with the animals.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you talk about cameras in trees, your early days of social media, but what really started Reach Out Reptiles? How did that begin?
That's a great question. So I left California, moved back to Pittsburgh area, and kind of had this like purge of my collection where you strip it all down to the couple of animals you just can't let go. And for me, that was one pair of reticulated pythons that I brought with me. And I was excited because Pittsburgh has basements, so I got to do the basement reptile room thing.
I live in Pennsylvania. I know the feeling.
Put up all my tchotchke reptile stuff from all the shows and everything. Yeah, it was great, right?
I know it.
So I had that, and I mean, it just exploded. Once I had the space, I'm like, I could put a cage here, I could put a cage here. And wouldn't you know it, with super dwarves, they're terrific enablers if you're used to mainland reticulated pythons, because for the space it takes for one giant python, you can have many more really small pythons. So
on the dwarfs, what's the average adult size on your dwarfs?
Ooh, that's kind of a trick question. So they're island localities, naturally occurring. It's not a morph or something like that. And the smallest of all the reticulated pythons, their localities range between like 6 up to maybe 8 feet at the max. But what we see in the pet trade is people breeding the neat color varieties into these island localities to selectively breed them down in size. So you don't really get, I mean, if you go strictly island locality by island locality, you can narrow it down to a size range. But when you start talking about morphs and crosses, it's all up to how well you selectively bred. It is kind of cool because most reptiles that we breed with morphs and varieties, you have kind of 2 dimensions, right? With like colors and patterns that you're combining. With these guys, color, pattern, and size. So you can really customize it. If there's going down to that smallest, barrier of 6, 7, maybe 8 feet long, and all the way up to mainland reticulated python from there, we can kind of get you whatever would be the best pet size for you.
That's really neat. I never really thought about that aspect of size being an issue. Another another aspect you're breeding
There's
for.
not too many species that you can do that with. I honestly, I don't know if I can think of any other, singular species.
Sure. On a slightly different note, you also do social media work for another organization, which hopefully everybody listening to this video right now should be well aware of, which is USARK.
Yeah, if you haven't subscribed there, a lot of us support USARK and have been for a long time. But it was actually the idea of Phil Goss, the president, and Brian Cusco to start a YouTube channel so that when they need to get the message out, people would get it right away rather than having to go to like a usark.org or something like that.
Blast the emails.
And read through. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And so that stuff is good, but to have it on social media, and YouTube in particular is a platform where a lot of people get their news these days. Yeah. I don't watch the news on television. I watch clips of television news on YouTube. And so we try to recreate that for USARK and also bring the rest of the community in there. Yeah, that was just something that we decided to do with our company. We already had the YouTube stuff going on, so we set up a studio with the very generous help of our channel supporters. Actually paid in, so we didn't have to charge USARK anything. Set up a USARK studio in the spot, and we've been running it for them ever since.
And for those of you, I don't think we actually said the words. We're not. USARK is basically the organization that is helping to defend our rights as keepers and help all of us be able to continue to do what we do and have great events like this for the reason of keeping animals and helping to spread the word.
It's super important, especially if you want the ability to progress in your reptile keeping. One of the things that lawmakers keep doing is try to narrow it down to like a few species and cut everything else off. But the problem there is like the species, think about something that's wildly popular like a crested gecko today. They didn't even know they existed when I was a kid. They were technically extinct and then rediscovered.
Yep.
So you're cutting off whatever that future crested gecko of the reptile industry is if you do that. So if you guys are into the progression of the hobby, it's really important to support USARK and critical here down in Florida especially.
Oh, absolutely. We interviewed Daniel Parker yesterday and spoke a lot about USARK Florida, and it's very important. If you're not familiar with it, make yourself familiar with it. So you've obviously, been a creator for quite some time with your own personal channel and then working with USARK as well. And we have a lot of people coming to this event, coming to AnimalCon thinking that maybe I want to try this. How do I do it? Do you have any advice to future creators that are looking to be an influencer someday?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing stopping people from getting on social media and sharing that passion is that they're afraid that their product, their personality, their message isn't good enough. But what I would say to you is that you should start it and begin putting it out there. I don't know a single creator here today that doesn't look back on their early videos and chuckle at how bad it is because they've learned so much. But you have to learn through that experiential process. So the most important thing I would say is to get into something that you authentically are in love with, and then just be real on camera and share that love with other people in whichever way your personality is suited best. We have creators here that use avatars and cartoons because they don't like to be on camera. We have creators here that are wildly successful with voiceover and B-roll style videos. And then we have like run and gun YouTubers that expose everything in their lives on camera way too much sometimes. So it runs the gambit. It could be anything you want as long as you are authentically in love with it. And the thing is just to try to be as real as you can for the people on the other side of that camera. You don't know who your message is going to reach, or if it could be the kickoff or the starting point for somebody who becomes critical to our industry and our hobby and our community later on.
That's great advice. You heard it here. Thank you very much, Garrett.
Hey, thanks for having me on.